Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see here, I'm doing some work on the NB2 Miata. This is my wife's Miata. It is an automatic, so this might be some very rare footage to some people out there struggling to keep these cars alive for their wives as their weekend cruiser. But I figured I'd start filming a couple things. As you can see, I've got a ton done already. A lot of the stuff I've already done. I've used DIYs that are already all over YouTube. The Car Passion channel, shout out to them. They have a lot of great videos to strip down these motors, whether it's NA or NV, and definitely used his as a guide to get me inspired to take on this project, because I was not really looking forward to it at the beginning, but it's been pretty fun so far. A lot different to work on than the S2000. It's my first time working on anything this in-depth other than a Honda, really. But this all really started out as a rear main seal leak, is what I thought. The car would get a few drops under it after you park it in the garage every day, so I've had to park it over top of this drain pan. And just really one of those things that I wanted to get taken care of. I debated paying someone to do it, but I'm glad I didn't, because I've discovered it wasn't just the rear main seal. It's been a lot more things, and I'll try to upload a few videos of the things I go through here. But long story short is that the rear main seal is not really leaking, it's the carrier, and there's a couple good threads on the Miata forums about the rear carrier leaking because the oil pan half moon seals dry up over time. This is a 2002, so it seems like the 20-year mark is when it really started drying up and leaking and seeping oil past it. So in addition to the rear though, because I've already got the transmission out now, I'm just going to do a complete overhaul here. Water pump and everything is stripped off, the cam gears are off. This is a VVT motor because it's a 2002, so I'm going to be doing stuff like replacing the filter and all the O-rings for the VVT actuator. That's all from R-Speed. And just upload some content I think is relevant and may be lacking on YouTube, because there is a lot of content for taking apart the manual cars. But there is some of us out there trying to maintain these automatics. If it were my car, of course I'd be, at this point, either dropping a K-Series into it or manual swapping it. So as you can see over here, we already got the transmission out of the car. I'm debating on getting a lower mileage used automatic transmission since they're only a few $100. This one does have a little bit of torque converter kind of chatter at idle. Kind of makes the car want to go more than I think it should, but then again, I've never driven another automatic Miata to compare it to. But pretty much everything's ready to pull the motor now. Like I said, this all started out as a rear main seal. I thought I was just going to drop the trans, replace it, and replace the rear main seal and put it back together and be done with it. But turning this into a maintenance overhaul, this oil leak has been leaking from the front and the rear. As you can see down in there, it's a little wet, but the half moon seal on the front of the oil pan I think is the culprit too. So the only way to replace this is to pull the pan. The rear one you can get away with taking the carrier out and using some clamps and some RTV to glue the seal down and kind of finagling it back in, but that's only for the rear. If your front one is leaking, which I think mine is slightly weeping, the rear one's definitely leaking a lot more, as you can see in this picture I previously showed. But I just want to knock it all out in one shot since I have this already apart. So first engine I've pulled out of a car will be this one. I've pretty much done everything on cars besides pulling engines. So over here I've got my father's cherry picker. I bought this load leveler at Harbor Freight, which I'll do another video on. And only thing left to disconnect with the motor is the fuel line right now. Everything else is out. But just a little update on the things I'm doing. It's a 168,000 mile car. Body's in pretty good shape, but definitely not rust free by any means. But definitely worth doing and putting the money into and salvaging. You know, I've already rehauled the brakes. The interior's in very nice shape. The body's pretty solid. So figured it's worth the time to save this car and get some more cruising out of it. But the things I'm really doing is I'm taking the advice of the Car Passion channel and redoing all the coolant hoses, the radiator, since it was a little discolored. I already threw that out. These are the old cooling hoses and stuff, but just a quick overview of the parts I'm doing. All new coolant hoses, OEM, new Gates belts. There's the drive shaft next to an S2000 drive shaft on the floor. But I went a little crazy with stuff here. I bought A lot of this through Treasure Coast Miata, which is what the Car Passion channel kind of recommended. Got a lot of these valve cover gaskets, all the seals. I got to figure out where their valve cover gasket seals go. If anyone can help me out with that, with a link, any pictures you got to send me, let me know, because I got like 6 valve cover gaskets that I'm not really sure where they go. I'm a little bit of a Mazda noob, because the valve covers, I keep saying valve cover, I meant timing cover. The timing cover, I got all 3 new timing covers, and they all have gaskets molded onto them already. So I'll have to figure out where these extra one goes. I'm hoping I really needed them, because they were like $80 extra to add those on. New water pump from Gates, new crank bolt, new cam seals, new rear main seal, VVT kit, new cam block off plate for the exhaust cam in the rear, because that seems to be leaking too. Front crank seal. Like I said, all the timing covers, brand new. There's the top, the middle, and then the bottom. Water pump gaskets. Just a complete overhaul for every pretty much maintenance item you need to do. I got a new radiator and radiator cap from R-Speed. That's in there. The VVT kit with the gasket and all the O-rings is from rspeed.net, and then everything else is from, you know, new thermostat over here. Everything else, OEM gaskets for the thermostat. Everything else is from Treasure Coast Miata. And you know, other things, like I had to cut the exhaust off because it had so much rust, so I sourced this through Arizona. Just a stock NB exhaust that actually has a flange left. Mine was all rotted out, so I had to cut it off. But yeah, just really looking forward to getting this thing done and stop leaking. It's pretty substantially different condition than the S2000. That car has never really had any problems with seals leaking, and they're the same age. Yes, the S2000 has about half the mileage, but the S2000 has also seen about 13,000 miles of hard track driving and abuse since I've owned it, and not one fluid leak really. So definitely think Honda has a better engineered, of course with the price difference of the cars, you'd think it'd be a much better engineered car, which there's no arguing, it's a better car, better high performance driving car, and reliability wise than the Miata as far as leaks. So the next thing really I need to do, besides disconnecting the fuel line, I already got the bolts loose on the motor mounts. As you can see, I took the power steering pump, the AC pumps kind of off to the side. The AC hasn't worked in this car, and I just assumed there was a leak and the pressure was completely gone, but I did plug one of those fill gauges into the lowest pressure side, even with the car off, and it did pop pressure right into the green zone. So the system is pressurized, so I can't just pull the lines off the AC unit, but I did buy on eBay a quote good unit with the AC compressor from a 2002, which is the same year as this car. It's a lot less crusty than mine. The bolts and everything are a lot nicer condition, and the wiring and everything looks a lot nicer, so I may just swap the compressor clutch and coil between the two to start, and not totally rule this one out, because the compressor does spin on this one, but it's hard to tell if it's good or bad. So the bolts are out of the motor mounts down there on each side, and last thing I really got to do is take the hood off, which is funny because the S2000 you actually have a maintenance position where you can lift the hood pretty much 90 degrees vertical and pull the motor out with the hood still on the car. It's not really the case with the NB. Maybe there's some tricks you can do, but the hood doesn't really go up any higher than this before it starts to try to deflect into the body and start to crease it. So was a little worried about getting alignment perfect back when I put this down, but what I did here is actually a trick someone from work suggested to me. Is I drilled a little hole through the hood mounting bracket, and just to the depth of where it pierced through the hood itself, the bottom sheet metal of the hood. You know, I wrapped like an 1/8 inch deep of electrical tape so I couldn't exceed that drill depth. So the idea is they can slide the drill bit in there backwards, and it's a very tight fit, almost like a dowel pin, for when you put each side back on by yourself, in my case, to align this hood and then tighten the bolts down when you have your drill bit in there as your alignment feature. pull it out, and the alignment should be the same on each side. Yes, I know some of you might cringe at drilling into that, but I'll touch it up with paint and it's gonna look fine when I'm done. There's the one on the other side right there. But now I can have confidence with that I'm not gonna be jerking around with that for an hour trying to get the hood alignment done at the end of this project. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned with this project. It's definitely, you know, another thing is I'm fighting with the rear diff to get the PPF still in the car because I couldn't get the spacer to drop on the rear diff. The rear diff looks like it came from the bottom of the ocean with all the rust on the casing, so that may have something to do with it, but I was able to get the automatic transmission and everything out without really removing the PPF. I just took the one bolt out of the rear so I could rotate the PPF off to the side, drop the trans, and now the PPF's kind of zip tied up underneath the car. So subscribe to the channel, guys. Let me know if you find this content valuable. I'll be uploading kind of little shorter videos than this to just things I think are important and kind of interesting as I go through this to note. I don't really want to put a lot of repeat information up there on YouTube that people have already done a lot better job than me explaining, but figured I'd at least keep you up to date on my journey with this car and getting it back to a reliable, leaky-free Miata for the wife to enjoy. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.